And it goes a little something like.
In this lesson, what are the learning outcomes? First, to discuss and put in context the principles of instructional design. Mean to say, to look at something, give us an extra information so we can understand about principles of instructional design. Second, design an instructional plan for online delivery. Instructional planning is the systematic selection of educational goals and objectives for use in the classroom. Third one is to illustrate the value and application of instructional design principle in materials development for lifelong learnings. We will going to demonstrate its importance for our personnel and further development. Teaching calls for planning and designing. It is to define the specific of how those objectives are taught in the classroom. Design and lesson planning in the process of developing lesson. Instructional design is another complex field of study that many may find it quite technical. When we say another complex field, it means it must be creative, it must be active, and it must be iterative. So having spatial and visually practical knowledge. Teaching with technology calls for the understanding of the key principles of instruction, getting students quickly to a place in which they can begin to put their knowledge into practice. In Lesson 9, we will explore the study of instructional design, its definition, the models, and usage in the context of online course design and management. So now, let's see what is instructional design.
Good morning everyone, I'm DARLENE SUA-AN. Today, my report is all about definitions of instructional design. So there are several definitions of instructional design or ID. You can find the literature just like the other terms that we have learned in the previous lesson. Instructional design is defined based on one's background, knowledge, and orientation. A teacher defines the terms in the context of lesson planning, while a system program development might express the definition and understanding of instructional design in the context of developing or producing technology-driven program instruction. Following are some of the definitions of instructional design. So the first one is instructional design is the systematic development of instructional specification using learning and instructional theory. To ensure the quality of instruction, it is the entire process of an analysis of learning needs and goals and the development of a delivery system to meet those needs. It includes development of instructional materials and activities and tryout and evaluation of all instruction and learning activities. Second is instructional design is the systematic process of translating general principles of learning and instruction into plans for instructional materials and learning. Third is instructional design is a systematic approach to planning and producing effective instructional materials. It is similar to lesson planning but more elaborate and more detailed. Fourth is instructional design is a systematic approach to course development that ensures that learning goals are accomplished. It is an iterative process that requires ongoing evaluation and feedback. So fourth is instructional design is the art of science of creating an instructional environment and materials that will bring the learner from the state of not being able to accomplish certain tasks to the state of being able to accomplish those tasks. Instructional design lay based on the instructional and practical research in the areas of cognition, educational psychology, and problem solving.
Good morning, everyone. I am Princess Dawn S. Tumang, and I will be going to report the ADI model. The ADI model process is wide and used by instructional designs, and it is a useful process when creating almost the other part of the curriculum. ADI is one of the best-known ID model and commonly used in education. The acronym ADI stands for Analysis, Design, Development, Implementation, and Evaluation. The first one is the analysis. Analysis helps identify the learning goals and objectives. It also helps gather information about what your audience already knows and what they still need to learn. In analysis, it is necessary to identify the problem that you will be going to provide a solution for, and as well as identifying a learning goals, and you should also going to identify who are the learners and their needs for the time frame for the entire development process. The second one is the design. Design based on your analysis. Make informed decisions to design the best possible learning experience. In this second step, the learning goals that you have decided is transformed into clearly learning objectives. The content is decided upon by sketching out a storyboard or wireframes, and scripts are written for any videos or voiceovers. The third one is the development. Development brings your learning experience to life by building your end product. In this step, the storyboard and wireframes are used to help create actual content that will be used in a module. And on this stage, where the videos and voiceovers are being recorded and edited as well. The fourth one is implementation. Implementation distributes your learning and end product to your audience. In this step, the completer instructional activity is being implemented in the classroom for students to use. And the last one is evaluation. Evaluation, it evaluates if your learning and product is effective and nearing its goals. Make any necessary updates and cycle back to the analysis phase. In this last step, the data is being collected and reviewed and you will find out if the problem you were trying to solve is in fact a result due to the course or instructional activity that you implemented, and at this stage, that you might choose to revise your course or instructional activity due to the feedback of the data from the implementation. The model is meant to be completed in sequential order from analysis to evaluation. However, ADI is designed to be a flexible, continuous process of improvements and iterations.
Good morning, everyone. My name is NORAMIE, and this morning we will be going to talk about the Hanafin and Peck design model. So did you know that Hanafin and Peck design model was created by Michael Hanafin and also Dr. Kyle Peck? So did you know that Hanafin and Peck design model is another simple instructional design? Why? Is it because it only consists of 3 phases? So the 3 phases, namely the needs assessment, design, development, or implementation. So let's talk first about the needs assessment. So when we say needs assessment, is where the designer formulate a program objectives. So in this phase, the teacher should analyze the needs of her learners, including their gaps, their goals, and also their knowledge that going to acquire. So in this phase, you should also develop objectives and start thinking about the learning activities and resources that will help you to achieve them most effectively. So you can conduct a survey or other feedback tool because it is very useful to determine the needs of your learners. So as you can see in the picture, that after analyzing the needs of your learner, it must be go through the process of revision and evaluation. So after that, you can proceed now to the next phase. So the next phase is the design, is where the designer create ways to achieve the goals and objectives. In practice, this is the stage that challenges the creativity of the designer. So this is the time that you are going to map out every data that you gather from the phase 1. You will come up in creating a storyboard or an outline that highlights the assessment that you are going to use. So the design phase, must go through the process of evaluation and revision, just like what you do in the first phase, which is the needs assessment. So the final phase is the development or implementation. It is the program or plan that put into action. The development or implementation, which means the application. So put all your data into a practical manner. And also, it requires highly skilled expert in this field. So one of the outstanding features of Hanafin and Peck design model is that the evaluation is continuous throughout the designing process. This model is best used in developing technology-driven instructional resources. So, as like what I said a while ago, that all the three phases should go through the process of evaluation and revision. That's all for today, and now let's proceed to the next model.
Hello everyone, my name is Kristine Ungab and I will be discussing about the Dick and Curry design model. So according to Sortracul and then Paisan in 2009, the Dick and Curry model prescribes a methodology for designing instruction based on a reductionist model of breaking instruction down into smaller components. This model will be our guide in designing our own instruction. When we say reductionist, these are those who takes one theory or phenomenon to be reducible to some other theory or phenomenon. Instruction is specifically targeted on the skills and knowledge to be taught and supplies the appropriate conditions for the learning of these outcomes. Those main knowledge and skills are the most important thing to be focused, and therefore it will create right condition for the results to be learned. So the Dick and Curry model, it is a systematic cycle that consists of 9 iterative cycle and a summative evaluation of the whole effectiveness of the instruction. So the 9 systematic design of instruction, these are the assess needs to identify goals, conduct instructional analysis, analyze learners and context, write performance objectives, revise instruction, develop assessment instruments, develop and select instructional materials, develop and construct formative evaluation of instruction, and lastly is the design and conduct summative evaluation. So first is the identify instructional goals. So when identifying them, keep in mind the organization's strategic objectives. Be specific about what learners will be able to achieve or how they will act once the program has been completed, and concentrate on real-world skills and behaviors. Next is the conduct instructional analysis. Your instructional research determines the existing state of skills and expertise in your target audience, as well as the difference between them and their objectives. So depending on the quality of the abilities, this may be assessed by interviews, surveys, observation, or various types of testing. Next is the identify entry behaviors. You must consider your learning population's attitudes, characteristics, levels of motivation, and other variables that will influence their learning journey in addition to evaluating their current level of knowledge. So this knowledge will assess you in developing effective learning strategies. Next is write performance objectives. So learning goals should be SMART, laying out activities and procedures that must be learned as well as how they will be evaluated. This is the acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So in education, these are referred to as SWBAT, or student will be able to. Next is develop criterion tests. You'll need to create criterion-specific assessments to monitor and prove both progress and efficacy of instruction. So it should be in an appropriate format and level for your target audience. Next is develop instruction strategy. Define your instructional strategy only after you've determined your priorities, current state, gap, objectives, and testing strategy. And it should be based on your research and incorporate relevant learning theories. Next is develop and select instructional materials. After you've described your learning plan, you can settle on materials. resources, activities, and delivery methods, such as face-to-face, group-based, facilitated, or online learning materials are both possibilities. Next is develop and conduct formative evaluation. So when we say formative assessment, it is the process of determining how well you have articulated your learning initiative. For example, like examination, focus groups, section testing, and piloting the learning program are all ways to get this information. The information gathered should be used to improve the initiative. And lastly is the develop and conduct summative evaluation. So when we say summative assessment, it occurs after the program has been delivered and is used to determine its effectiveness. So there are questions that are formulated when it comes to summative assessment, such as, is the curriculum meeting the expectation of the participants? Has it resulted in an improvement in awareness and skills? Is the school receiving the benefits as a result of it? And that would be the end of my report. Again, my name is Kristine. Thank you and God bless.
Good morning, I am Kristine May S. Ono. So today I will be going to report about Usher Model. The Usher instructional design was developed by Heinrich and Melinda in 1999. The primary goal of this model is to produce an effective teaching and learning approach. This model serves as a guide for teachers in planning and conducting instruction using instructional technology. There are 6 simple steps to follow in the model, representing the acronym of the Usher. A stands for Analyze Learner. S. State Objectives. S. Select, Modify, or Design. U. Utilize Materials. R. Require Learner Response. And E. Evaluation. The first phase in Usher model is the analysis of your target students or audience. Understand their learning styles and know their prior knowledge of the subject matter you are about to teach. The second phase is when the designer states learning goals and objectives. It is important at this stage the designer takes into account the 3 learning domains, namely cognitive, psychomotor, and affective in stating the learning goals and objectives. The third phase is the selection of the instructional materials that will support the delivery of content. There are 3 options a designer can take, namely to select, modify, or develop the materials. This is quite a crucial stage in the model because wrong choice of materials can result to effective learning. The fourth stage in the Usher model is the utilization of the instructional materials in teaching and learning process. The teacher at this stage has the task to create engaging learning activities using the appropriate materials. The fifth stage of Usher model is requiring learners' participation. At this stage, the teachers create engaging learning activities where the students can participate actively in problem solving and in critical thinking. Learning activities are designed to allow the students to interact with the teacher and express their feedback. The sixth stage of this model is evaluation, which is final measure as to extent of learning on the part of the students, and the evaluation of whether or not the teacher has achieved the state learning goals and objectives. In summary, teaching online requires careful planning. While technologies are there to drive online learning, the teacher remains the most effective medium to deliver instruction. However, this calls for enough time in planning and creativity in designing for online course delivery. Understanding the principles of instructional design can help you to prepare not only your instructional plan but also in developing and producing online instructional resources. That's all for my report. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm SUANSING. I'm the reporter of online instructional plan templates. Here, in learning outcomes, you put the specific learning outcomes for every learning activity. For example, through online learning, they may acquire self-motivation and communication. And you as a teacher makes you efficient. Pag i-deliver mo na ang lessons to your students, pwede mo ding hindi lagyan ng learning outcomes as shown in the table. And the next column is the online learning activities. So here where you indicate the online activity. For example, reading of online article, kumbaga dito na column mo isasaad kung anong online activity ang ibibigay mo. We must also indicate her in the direction or panuto para sa mga online students na maaari nilang i-follow. Ilalagay mo din dito ang duration ng activity. Next is the type of online communication and interaction. LMS tools to be used. Example, asynchronous or synchronous communication. Teacher must define kung anong klaseng communication ang ginamit. By the way, ang synchronous communication is the transmission of data with the use of signal. You also put her in this template the type of interaction sa isang activity. Sa final column, the last column is where the student task. Student will be supportive by the teacher in some way by the presenting here the information as a feed mo sa inyong estudyante. Those describe her the learning tasks the students will do. And that's all. Thank you.